Quiet, numbskulls, I'm broadcasting.
And now, the stories you may not see on TV. It's time for another episode of All Politics Are Local with your host, Barry Dee.
Yes, indeed. It's time to find out what's happening here at All Politics Are Local, a weekly show hosted by a guy with incredibly good looks and a striking amount of modesty. Barry Dee.
Oh, brother, this guy stinks!
Don't judge me. We are proud to be Chester County's only AM and FM radio station located at the 17th floor of the WCHE Studios corporate building at 105 West Gay Street in West Chester. A mere 2.5 blocks from the social restaurant at 117 East Gay Street. The Google describes it as a festive night spot featuring Cajun-inspired eats and craft cocktails in a comfortable, stylish setting.
Oh, yeah.
Another shameless plug for one of the neighboring businesses. Eric, I gotta tell you, I'm advertising here for a local business, a restaurant, and I'm like, I don't know, 89 hours into a fast right now.
Yeah, how's that working?
Terry was watching cooking shows last night. It was racks of lamb and steaks and chicken, and I'm in a 4-day fast. A 4-day fast.
We have a lot of donuts here in the studio if you want to.
Okay, enough about me. So, what have I got today? It's back to me. I have my monologue and the president of the Honeybook Speedway, an operation that's facing the potential of being demolished. With me today is a guy that makes this radio station run like a Dodge Hellcat with nitrous and a smaller supercharger pulley.
Pretty hard to believe.
Would you believe a freshly imported 1987 Yugo? Look, here's the point. Eric Clambera has everything under control and makes this station sound mostly the way it does.
Mostly.
Let's move on to that time of the show where we step back in time to a commercial that isn't politically correct, as they have to be today. 25 years ago, Bud Light had commercials that made fun of people.
Wait, what?
Yeah, I know, right? But if people got their feelings hurt, it didn't make any difference. It was all in good fun. Today, someone ultimately gets whisked away to a safe room. So let's go back to a simpler time and laugh together at someone else's expense.
Bud Light presents Real Men of Genius. Today we salute you, Mr. Supermarket Free Sample Guy.
Mr. Supermarket Free Sample Guy.
Though man dreads few things more than a trip to the supermarket, you offer us hope, and sometimes a free mini-weenie.
I love that freebie weenie.
What exactly do you have? Aerosol cheese products? Deep-fried morsels? Who cares? If it's on a toothpick and it's free, it could be plutonium and we'd eat it.
It's all good, baby.
For a guy wearing oven mitts and an apron, you're all right.
You're a star.
So crack open an ice cold Bud Light Titan of the toothpick, because you put the free in freedom.
Let it be free.
Bud Light Beer, Anheuser-Busch, St. Louis, Missouri.
Man, I love those guys that give out samples, especially over at Wegmans on Route 30 in Downingtown. Another shameless plug. All right, let's go to my monologue.
I'm trying to think, but nothing happens.
I don't have Jack or Carla today, so you guys are stuck with me, and I got 3 subjects to cover. It started as one. It sounds like a hockey game in Canada between Canada and the United States right now. I went to a hockey game last week, and a boxing match broke out. Anyway, I had 3 subjects to cover. It started as one, then there was another, and then there was another, and then I figured I better just stop. So, look, first one, the news the way we know it today has really changed. You know, social media, for better or for worse, has a lot of good information. Seriously, I mean, we had Mark on a couple weeks ago from Irish Eyes, and his stuff's great. You find out the details of what's going on, like last night, somebody's house had a hit and run. A house. Somebody hit this people's house and drove away. It turns out to be a friend of mine's. Right on Route 113. No cameras around, no nothing. I don't even know. Is that no-fault insurance? I have no idea how that works. But look, tons of good information. Seriously, there are announcements of upcoming events. You can find out who died. Obituaries, they cost so much now. Who wants to spend $500 or more to let people know that someone died?
Surely you can't be serious.
I am serious. And don't call me Shirley.
Yeah, let me jump over to that for a minute. Yeah, yes, obituaries, they are really expensive to put in the paper. I remember when it was free, but things changed. Newspapers don't dominate the news market anymore. You know, they're thought to maintain the standard, and they would, but, you know, the news standard. But the problem with them is that, you know, it all comes down to money, right? You know, the news that comes from the papers is written by, for the most part, professionals, which is researched and checked. It's supposed to be. Now, with 24-hour news and all that, it gets a little sketchy at times, but then it's reviewed by an editor who gives it the final okay. And all of this costs money, and the people seem to want their news for free. Readers actually get mad because information that costs money to produce, that has a cost to the reader. They don't want to pay it, right? And the advertising is down from conventional sources like, you know, the newspaper. People can advertise in social media at a fraction of the cost because electrons are cheap. Paper and ink are not. Plus, the internet has instant gratification, right? You need something, type it in the internet, and voila. There it is. Bam, the item you need. You shop for the price. You push a button, and it's done. So they're not turning pages of the paper going, oh, I think I'll buy a new car this week. You know, they don't have to do that. This is, I need a new car. Here it is. We're done. So with less advertisers, the papers can even less afford to produce, you know, actual news stories. It's kind of a death spiral that's being staved off by those willing to pay for the news behind a paywall.
I will never let go, Jack. I'll never let go.
Yeah, that's right. That was from the Titanic, by the way. So back to social media. Lots of good information can be found, and it's quick. You know, road conditions, fires, criminals on the loose. Thank you, Irish Eyes. Another shameless plug there. And a dozen other pages I can think of that people report on what's happening. This isn't to be confused with Nextdoor, where every third person is a Karen complaining about something like fireworks in the neighborhood. Look, I don't like fireworks either, and I get it. But after the 1,000th time of the incessant whining, please, we are really tired of it. Either do something about it or shut up. You know, why is my job to have to listen to you complain about something? Call the cops already. I'm pretty sure the guys doing it aren't reading your post saying, oh, Karen's upset. We had better cool it with the fireworks. So, look, this is my point to social media. For all the good things, being an open format where everybody has a keyboard, and you've heard the term keyboard cowboys, there's a bunch of junk out there, and I can filter through a lot, but holy moly. When it goes to the political end of the spectrum of the news, where hair triggers come out and the tinfoil hats conduct more electricity in a little bit, some of those posts create monsters.
It's alive!
Look, I'm really getting fatigued by seeing all the things published that are simply not true. Let me give you some examples. No less than 4 people sent me a story, I'm putting that in air quotes, about arrest warrants being issued for Governor Shapiro for his involvement in the Butler assassination attempt of President Trump. Really?
Are you kidding me?
Yeah, I wish I was. Think about it. Who leaks a notice of an arrest warrant being issued for the governor of Pennsylvania for a failed plot to murder someone, especially a former president and candidate for president once again? That'd be 45 and 47, by the way. Look, it was bad enough seeing the assassination attempt in Butler, you know, on President Trump. You know, there were people that actually claimed it was a setup just to get sympathy from the American public. Who in the world is going to go all William Tell and say, look, put that apple on top of my head, take a shot with an arrow? If you don't understand that reference, you're going to have to look it up. Except in this case, shoot at me, but just wing my ear with an AR-15. Oh, my God. And that one, my friends, was speculated on and verbalized on television news channels that it was a setup. Think about how stupid that claim even is. But then to say Governor Shapiro was involved in an attempted murder plot, and what was Shapiro planning on doing? Escaping the country to get away from the law? What is this, some kind of Hollywood movie? Yep, people actually believe it. And send it to me. Now, on the other side, I got ones where President Trump is going to eliminate, are you ready for this? The EPA, FEMA, the IRS, Social Security, Medicare, and a list of like 20 other things. Again, really, those organizations could get reorganized and streamlined, but they aren't going anywhere. They'll be made more efficient. Sure, let's hope for that, because I don't care what side of the aisle you're on, unless you're a complete dope. We all know that the government rips us off, and it's all because they get big and bloated, and there's more and more people, and they slow things down. That's their version of job creation, okay? Nobody gets upset when, like, some company lays off 20 or 30 people and of their staff of 120. They're like, oh, that's a shame, IBM, blah, blah, blah. Look, that happens, except in government. It never gets a layoff. They just don't do it. Now, Clinton did it, by the way, but he actually moved them over to other departments. He goes, we're getting rid of them, and moved them into other departments. So I don't know how much of that was really done. But at least they talked about it. I'll give them credit for that. But look, this claim gets taken seriously and lathers people up, right? About, they're getting rid of all these organizations. Follow that up with a fiction from the one that was sent to me yesterday, but it was created back when the incident occurred. It just happened to get forwarded to me. The inspector of the USDA who was fired by Trump and refused to leave her office. Now, that part is true. Now, the claim is she was arrested for not leaving and JAG officers are working on her prosecution. No, she wasn't arrested. Now, there's a claim that security had to escort her out. The USDA states that it was just two friends. And it might be a combination of the two. The security could have been her friends. She was the inspector general, whatever it is, of the USDA. She could have been friends with security. She sees him every day. Hey, Bob. Hi, Sam. We're never going to know that. So, and those are some of the mild ones, and actually people believe it. Wild, unverified claims and accusations. Over the last several years, I've challenged these claims by these posters in public. I mean, I get right on Facebook, and I bet them, right? Seriously, I bet them. $100 is an easy number. It's round. It's not a lot of money. It's enough to hurt, though, and enough to embarrass them. But if they truly believe what they say, they would take the challenge. But they don't. Never once has anybody ever taken one of my bets. Why? Because they know what is posted is total BS, and they put it out there just to lather people up. Sure, they come up with an excuse why they won't. They're like, well, I'm not going to bet you because I don't want to take your money and make me wealthier on you, or I don't bet because name your religion, whatever. Then I have to really humiliate them by bringing up the subject over and over again. For example, one person stated that the Dylan Mulvaney debacle created by Bud Light would blow over in a weekend. I said, sure enough, put your money where your mouth is. Here's $100. He said he didn't want to take my money. Each and every week for 1 year, I posted how much the market cap of InBev, the parent company, was down, and it was all because of Bud Light. In fact, Bud Light still has not recovered to this day. Go ahead, Google it. Google it. You'll find it. They've never recovered. People lost their jobs over that. It was stupid. Just stupid. But what was really stupid is that people defended the actions and then wouldn't bet. If people are going to make ridiculous claims and stand on them as fact, why not put your money where your mouth is? And that is just a small part of the fake news that we all hear about. But those very claims, whether it be no damage that was created by a stupid publicity stunt, or that the governor of PA is in some way attached to some attempted murder scheme, this just makes people crazy. And some want it to be true in the worst way. It feeds their perception, their belief system. But it's a lie. It's misinformation. Again, on both sides of the aisle. I'm not taking defense. By the way, somebody on Facebook said my show is really right-wing, which I've had Democrats on. I've had Republicans on. I talk on both sides of the aisle. And so I've since said to them, well, you're going to have to show me where that is. So just thought I'd let you know about that one. Look, I'm not in favor of censorship. When censorship begins, the truth ends, because truth is the first thing to get censored. What I'm in favor of is calling out people that publish this garbage, and everybody else ought to too. If you want to read that type of tripe, go for the Weekly World News. They've got your back. You can pay for it and immerse yourselves in that fantasy world. But wild claims of Elon Musk getting your social security number to steal your money needs to be called out to the public. Your social security number, who doesn't have that? The car dealer where you bought your car. Every place else, every time you do any kind of business transaction. So the wealthiest man in the world is going to open up a credit card in your name and use it. Seriously, I mean, look, it's just ridiculous. And this even goes for the people in Congress making these accusations also. I see it all the time. They say things and then just go away. It's just damage. It's terrible damage that hurts all of us. So put up or shut up, all of you. I will bet you into humiliation. Let's go to Vegas. Let's get them in on this and be sure the results get published. I'm all in. Nobody I've ever challenged yet has put up, and I would have won every time. And if you won't bet on yourself, everybody knows you're lying, or I don't know what else. If you're not lying, what is it? So please, before you share some of your ridiculous claims out there that you want your heart of hearts to be true, do a little research. Think about it logically, and unless you have some inside information, step away from the keyboard. Otherwise, you're part of the problem. Another couple quick things. Thanks to several posts on Facebook, the potholes are in full force, especially on the Route 30 bypass. Tires are repeatedly being taken out. This has been going on for a couple weeks now. Please contact 1-800-FIX-ROAD immediately when you see one. The more people that report it, the faster it's going to be fixed. Note the location and the call, when you did it. Do not use profanities, no matter how upset you are. It doesn't expedite the repair. Even, in fact, it may slow it down. Or, I believe you can also use the Custom Care website, which is customcare.pendot.pa.gov. But don't use that there interweb when you're driving, okay? And up there in Honeybrook, by the way, I'm going to say this now and I'm going to report it afterwards. There's a killer pothole around 4781 Horseshoe Pike. When the truck's hit it, you think a bomb exploded.
Are you kidding me?
Oh, I wish I was, Eric. It's bad. I saw Chinamen climbing out of it the other day. It's so deep, and please, nobody call me a racist for that. That's an old reference. It goes all the way through to China. And if I have to describe that, I'm sorry. Anyway, lastly, the last thing I have, because I am just going on and on. This very serious about this one, too. I'm serious about all these, okay? I may joke, but I am serious. A court sentencing here in Chester County came down for a neighbor that stabbed another neighbor. The sentence is 4 to 8 years in prison. I have followed the story since the beginning, and it's an interesting story that I've seen reported in the Daily Local. Listen, we all cheer when the victim becomes the vigilante after years of being harassed and nobody does anything about it. Or somebody else becomes the fixer. Well, that doesn't really ever happen. That's in the movies. When the law won't do anything and you're continually harassed, you're told by the police it's a civil matter and will do nothing, and your family lives in constant fear as well as some of your neighbors. Yeah, eventually you break, right? Hell, this is the classic Hollywood movie theme type thing, right? Death Wish 1, 2, and 3 with Charles Bronson as an example in the 70s. The TV show from the 80s, The Equalizer, where the ex-intelligence officer goes and gets the bad guys for the innocent victims. In fact, I just watched Equalizer 3 with Denzel Washington on a plane coming back from Phoenix. That was a series of movies where this private citizen who used to have some kind of intelligence background, he becomes a citizen hero, single-handedly wiping out the bad guys to make things right for innocent people, and we all cheer. I mean, that's really what we do, right? I mean, the good guy takes over. Well, folks, that isn't actually how it works. Let me tell you how it works. When people hit a breaking point and finally snap because everybody out there that's supposed to protect the citizens wipes their hands of a situation and calls it a civil matter, when harassment is indeed a crime, the cops don't do anything, the victim ends up becoming the assailant. Right up to the point where the victim is assaulted by the assailant, violently punched, the victim takes out a knife and stabs the assailant. Then the tables are turned in the eyes of the law. Instantly, the victim is now the bad guy. He's the assailant. The law that would protect the victim from harassment by a neighbor almost on a daily basis, right? That's the problem. The lights shining on the victim's house, screaming at the family. The list goes on and on, all with video. Did nothing. They did nothing. Repeated reports of how bad this was. Nothing. Now, one might say it was self-defense. I would, with extensive hours of the video that showed nobody cared about before. Certainly it would be proof of justification when it gets to the court, right? No. The only thing admissible from what I understand is the video of the incident from that day, the assault by the neighbor and the victim now taking justice into his own hands. How can that be, you might ask? That's the way the law works, at least as I understand it. My law degree comes from the University of American Samoa. No prior history can be shown of how this incident gestated. It's just not allowed. You can't enter that as evidence. Because if the jury saw that information, they might say the aggressor now turned victim deserved it. So a man who had no prior criminal record, a mild-mannered citizen, just tired that his family was being harassed and having veiled threats hurled at him and his family while they were trying to eat on their back deck on a cool summer evening. Lights glaring on their house in the middle of the night. All clear violations of the law and ordinances of the townships. The law that did nothing about it and they told the victims of these actions, stop calling. It's a civil issue. Well, this is what you get. One harassment citation probably would have neutralized the entire situation. A culmination of probably hundreds of incidents, not only to this one victim who happened to share a property line with the actual aggressor, but to the others in the neighborhood on a lesser basis. But the majority of the violations that weren't taken care of not by one, two different township police departments did nothing. There's a township border that extends through the properties. That culmination of harassment with no police intervention made a victim snap after being physically assaulted, and none of that prior information is allowed to be used in court. I bet if the jury saw those videos, they'd come away with a completely different verdict. But instead, due to the failures of our system, especially our government that's supposed to ultimately be for the health, safety, and welfare of its citizenry, the aggressor is now the victim, and the victim goes to jail. So when you cheer for the good guy that's stopping the bad guy who's wreaked havoc on innocent and law-abiding citizens, think again. The scope of the law is very narrow, and prior history means nothing, not even the assault. You have to retreat whenever possible. And if the aggressor has a gun that shoots you in the back while you're running away, like you're supposed to, and paralyzes you because you were running away, because the law requires you not to protect yourself, rest assured, the law will then be on your side while you're in a wheelchair drinking out of a sippy cup. Until then, you're on your own.
Funny situation, ain't it?
Yeah, let's take a break. Let's get back with my studio guest today.
And now, the stories you may not see on TV. It's time for another episode of All Politics Are Local with your host, Barry Dee.
My guest today is Mike Kelly from the Honeybrook Speedway, which is located right next to 322, just a quarter mile from Cupola Road and the Suburban Brewing Company. Another shameless plug for a local Chester County business. Mike has been running the Honeybrook Speedway for how many years, Mike?
I've been president for 3 years now.
3 years, and it is now threatened with being closed down. Not by the township, but by a developer that may purchase the land. There's some township stuff going on too, but let's keep it to the developer for now. This track has been a staple of entertainment and family bonding for over 40 years here in Chester County, and while racing may not be your cup of high-octane fuel, it is a small track where kids learn to race, which leads to many life lessons such as strategy, logic, mechanical ability, team cooperation, and family relationships, just to name a few. But to get the lowdown on this rapidly changing situation, I thought an interview with Mike would clear up any rumors and tell us what the facts are. And Mike even brought in his son Cooper today. Cooper, how old are you?
I am 8 years old.
Ever been on a radio station?
No.
Neither have I. You don't believe that, do you?
No.
Well, one day you'll get into a real radio station with a real host. But anyway, Mike, I always have theme music for my guests, and you're probably a little too... How old are you?
I'm 38.
You're a little too young for this, but here goes.
Oh, rapid roar, that stock car boy. He's too much to believe. You know he always got an extra pack of cigarettes, a roll up in his t-shirt sleeve. He got a tattoo on his arm, say baby. He got another one that just say hey. But every Sunday afternoon he is a dirt track dealer in a 57 Chevrolet.
You know that one?
No, Barry, I definitely don't know that
1973. Local boy Jim Croce. You know who Jim Croce is?
I do.
He brought us Bad Bad Leroy Brown, Time in a Bottle, You Don't Mess Around with Jim, and other songs, right?
Yeah.
Released posthumously because he died in a plane crash just as his music career was starting to take off. He lived in Lindell. Did you know that?
I did not.
There's actually a sign marker on the road right next to the house in Lindell. Yeah. In fact, when he passed away, they needed somebody to fill that spot because he was a shooting star. A guy named Jimmy Buffett filled his place with the recording company. I think it was CBS. And they needed somebody, and they were buddies. And that's what really launched Jimmy Buffett's career. So, one door closes, another door opens. Pretty crazy, right?
Sure is.
So, why don't you tell me, how did you get involved in the racetrack?
So, when I was 5 years old, I started racing quarter midgets. My dad got me into it. And we raced at Honeybrook. There's a dirt track in Phoenixville that we used to go to. And then we, since then, traveled around and raced for many years. After I got a little older, had some kids of my own.
Hey?
I decided it was time to get them into racing.
Mm-hmm.
So I have two older girls and Cooper here.
Yeah? The girls race at all?
So the girls were racing.
Yeah?
They all started at 5. They've slowly semi-retired. They like to go and practice.
Right.
But they come to the track every week. They all come and help in the snack shack, work around the track. They watch all the little kids while the parents are working on cars. So
right.
they're very involved still.
So have I gone wrong on my description at all? I've been involved in racing in my early years, and it really is all of that stuff. It's strategy, logic, mechanical ability, team cooperation, and family relationships, isn't it?
Yeah.
It's about they all go to the track and they all pitch in, right?
Yes, everybody does.
Yeah, and that's everybody. That's not just you operating. That's every team that's there.
Yep. It's
dad, mom, the kids, the siblings. They're all like, you got to get out there, Sue or Bobby. Let's get this done, right?
Yeah.
That's the magic to it, and that's what brings them together. A lot of people think it's redneck. Yeah, it might be a little redneck, but you know what I mean? That's racing. We love that stuff.
Yeah.
And I got to tell you, I've been called a redneck, and I don't think I am. I feel I'm very cosmopolitan. But I'll tell you, I love watching the kids grow and do this stuff, and it's a lot of it is personal responsibility. It teaches them personal responsibility. When you crash, if it's your fault, suck it up, right?
Yeah, absolutely. They get into other kids, and they make mistakes too.
That's exactly it. So there's an oval track. So why don't you tell me it's quarter midget? Talk about quarter midget cars, because a lot of people out there don't know what a quarter midget is.
Yeah. So a quarter midget's basically
little cars, big wings.
So there's no big wing on top.
No?
Just a roll cage.
I already lost it.
So there's a cage on top. The kids are all seatbelted in.
Right.
The main difference between a go-kart and a quarter midget is the cage, and then there's suspension on quarter midgets also.
Right. Oh, yeah, go-kart's pretty rough riding.
Yes. So they're 5.5 horsepower motors that they start out in, and as little kids with restrictor plates, they do about maybe 5-10 miles an hour when you're 5 years old. And then you can gradually move up until you're 16 or 17, I think the rules are now.
Mm-hmm.
And, they can get up to about 55 miles an hour on these little racetracks.
It's pretty crazy.
With 10 other, with 10 cars on the track, it's
pretty
full
hairy.
chaos.
Yes. Tell me about the motors. What motors they run? They used to run Briggs. What do they run now? Briggs and Strattons.
So when I was a kid, they would run Briggs and Stratton and a Continental or a Deco motor. They've moved away from them. So now we run a Honda.
Tell me they're going Hondas.
So we run a Honda motor now. A brand new motor is about $1,200.
Yeah.
Ready to go. They also run Briggs and Stratton still for a little bit older kids. But when I was a kid,
getting the thumbs down for Cooper. He doesn't like the Briggs and Stratton. You're an anti-Briggs guy, is that it? Yeah.
Yeah.
I love the Briggs.
Has anybody gone out on a limb and done a Harbor Freight Predator motor just to see what it'll do?
So the quarter midgets have restrictions. They have a lot of rules and regulations on them, but I do know a lot of go-kart guys. They do the Harbor Freight motors.
Do they really?
Yep. And
they're bootlegs of the Hondas, aren't they?
Yeah.
I mean, the Chinese, they just copy them like, okay, this is good. Slap a different sticker on it.
Right.
I wonder about the metallurgy of them, but
Yeah. They the tolerances are a little different. So you might buy one and it's a good one, and you buy another one and it's not as good as the one before.
It's funny you say that because I just watched a YouTube video a couple weeks ago testing out all these different motors, and the Predator was in there, and they said one motor was terrific and the other was absolute junk.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. So we work. They have a really tight rule book, so it really keeps a lot of the equipment all on the same page. So it puts a lot back to the kids, and then your prep work.
Yeah.
So and practice.
And practice. That's exactly. What's a normal budget for somebody that runs a race car for the year, a quarter midget?
So as a young guy or a young family, with one car, I'd probably say they could spend, if after you have a car and tools and stuff, I mean, for the year to actually go racing, maybe $2,000 in parts and entry fees, I would say, for the entire year.
That's cheaper than getting your kid into hockey.
Yeah.
By a long shot.
Absolutely it is.
Wow, that's amazing.
And not only that, our club, we try and find families that aren't racing families, and we have a club car that we
give them a shot.
Yeah, let them use it for free for the year.
No way.
Anything they break or bend that
they got to
replace.
Fix. Right.
But that way it gets somebody into it that might not know. Their kids are kind of on the fence, and gives them a chance.
It's like the Hertz Rent-A-Racer. You understand that reference?
I do.
That was Carroll Shelby. Ford offered that. Carroll Shelby, the GT 350, 350 GT Shelby Rent-A-Racer for Hertz. You could rent it from Hertz. People would take them to the track and race them and then bring them back. They'd weld in roll cages. So that was not a real successful campaign. Hey, listen, we're going to take a commercial break. I wanted to build this whole thing up so that people understood exactly what it is and what you guys do. And then we're going to get to what's going on.
Barry Dee is back with All Politics Are Local.
I am back. Connor, you having a good time?
Yes.
Good answer. All right. Let's get on with this interview with Mike Kelly from the Honeybrook Speedway, right up there on Route 322, where they race quarter midgets. So, Mike, let's talk about this a little bit. What's going on up there? I see the signs, Save the Honeybrook Speedway. What's going on?
Yeah, so our track has, when it moved there in the 70s, it was rebuilt there in Honeybrook from Doylestown originally.
Mm-hmm.
Not exactly sure who was the original guy or people that worked out a deal to move it over there,
mm-hmm.
but
you say worked out a deal, so they didn't own the land.
No. So as long as the racetrack's been there, I mean, we've never owned the land, and the current owner of the property now, he's let us race there for 30 years
mm-hmm.
with a really reasonable lease,
mm-hmm.
and that's only in the last couple years.
Keep it clean, don't make a mess, run the place.
And take care of it, give the kids a place to do their thing.
Mm-hmm.
And, so he's been very generous with that for many years. The land's always kind of been for sale
mm-hmm.
if the right price came about.
Mm-hmm.
2008 or so, there was a good chance that they were moving forward with a sale, and then the market there crashed, so it all kind of went away. So the track got to stay. But now recently, there's been a new sale agreement on the property with D.R. Horton as the developer.
Uh-huh.
And it's been a couple different plans and revisions, but from what I understand, there should be about 130 units that they're trying to build on the property there. And
single-family homes, townhomes. Do you know anything?
I think the last one that I heard, they were twins.
Mm-hmm.
There was another previous portion where there were townhomes and a big part of that, but that all kind of went away.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
So,
it's an interesting area back there. I know Honeybrook very well. Been going up there since I was a kid. I grew up in Eagle, as we were talking about off air, and very familiar with Honeybrook. I'm in Honeybrook probably on a 2 to 3 day basis for business. And so I look at everything on the way. I know Cupola Road. I know all the roads back there, except for maybe a handful. Mostly because my mama always told me, don't be someplace you shouldn't be. You'll never get in trouble. You know what I'm saying, Connor? Or Cooper? You know, that's it. It's,
that's pretty good advice.
It is good advice. My mom was a sharp woman, so that was something that I don't go on some roads, but I know a lot of them, and I know your property back there. It's got some wet areas to it and all that. So I haven't seen a design plan yet. I should really look around and see if I get one or get somebody to send one over to me. So it's going to be interesting to see how they do that. Is there any talk of, in that subdivision, because it's going to be a subdivision, they're going to subdivide everything, that the owners could make the agreement of sale where they would calve off that section to you guys? Obviously, you'd have to take a mortgage to do something like that. They have to be made whole. But is there anything that they've proposed for anything like that?
So I've talked to the landowner, and as of right now, with the agreement that's in place in the contract, they can't change anything. So they can't break off that piece where the racetrack is.
Mm-hmm.
I've talked to him and asked him, and he's not 100% on board with kind of changing the agreement. Maybe when the agreement's up and their contract's over, we might be able to work out a deal where we try and break off that piece.
Mm-hmm.
But for now, the developer kind of wants
in the driver's seat.
Yeah, and they kind of want and need that acreage where the racetrack is for their water plans for all the runoff and different all their acreage for that.
Really?
So yeah,
your racetrack is right on the road, man.
It is.
They're saying that their water retention area is going to go right up there.
Yes, that's from what I understand. It looks like there's going to be a retention pond right there where the racetrack is.
Oh. Oh well, I haven't seen the plans, but and I certainly don't understand it. I'm not the builder, but I'm sure there's a thing called the SALDO, the Subdivision and Land Development Ordinance. Some people monkey around with them, they change them, some for better, some for worse. Honeybrook, not so sure. I need somebody to come in and talk more about what they've done with their SALDO lately. But there's a lot of open space that's typically required with townships, where they are allowed to build out so much. You can have so much impervious surface. And I'm surprised that they don't have other open areas that they couldn't put water retention and engineer it for that. But I'm a layman looking at it from the outside, so maybe I could get somebody from D.L. Horton on here to explain it to me. That might be good, right?
Yeah,
that'd be
great.
So maybe I'll make a phone call over there, see what we can get. Lots of times nobody wants to talk to me.
So, I mean, D.R. Horton, I got a meeting with them at their office in Lansdale previously.
Mm-hmm.
And the most recent guy that's been on the project, it's just kind of been reworked.
Mm-hmm.
I've reached out, tried to get in contact, and he's not interested in talking or hearing what I have to say. Where the previous group of people were very interested. They sat down with me. We had a conversation. They made up a bunch of questions they sent over to me just to get some general information about the property. And they were very willing to work together, try to make something happen, get their project moving along, and give the kids a place to stay racing.
Instead of hanging out on a street corner.
Yeah.
Getting in trouble. Racing on the streets.
Yeah.
Taking out the lawnmowers, running around everywhere, right? Right, Cooper? Getting crazy. Yeah. So, ultimately, that's probably what happened in Doylestown. The urban creep takes over and destroys that. Morgantown, the airport's gone. Airport's all gone. They took down all the buildings. That was zoned industrial, and the neighbors a lot of the neighbors didn't like the airport. So as time went on, and the family was getting older that owned it, I mean, they have the right to cash it in. And nobody wanted to run an airport anymore. It's just a grass strip, and it had hangars in it and stuff. They had a great gliding thing going on there. And eventually, they put in a plan for like a truck terminal or something of the sort. And the neighbors really didn't like that. Never mind the fact they live right across from Morgan truck bodies.
Yeah.
They didn't want to be surrounded by industrial stuff, even though they were right next to industrial stuff. So the township up there, Caernarvon, had them go back, and I guess they rewrote their zoning and allowed it to be houses. So houses are going to be built there too, and that increases the load on the school systems. Right now, you have more kids. You have more. No offense, Cooper, but it's more kids in school, and the property taxes have a hard time paying for that. Houses don't cover what it costs. A high school student, I saw an Owen J. Roberts years ago, was $12,000 to $13,000 a year. Well, there's very few people that have property taxes, school taxes of $13,000 on their house. That means that your house doesn't pay for your one child in high school. So it has to come from somewhere. So every house you build puts us further and further behind. Plus, you're building more schools or putting additions on them and things like that. When you have industry, it doesn't happen so much. When you limit the amount of development through open space ordinances and things like that, you can keep that down. But the developer and the owner of the property do have the right, unfortunately, to this. And it's very sad that they won't talk to you about it. When do you think that this would actually happen? Do you have any idea? If they do not come to any kind of help?
So they still haven't submitted a formal plan to the township as of February's meeting.
Mm-hmm.
And
they just did like interim plans. Just one's just throwing it out there saying this is what we've got.
Yeah, so they had a previous plan that they've then now reworked, and are not. They reduced the size of the property. There was an adjacent property they were buying, but they're not doing that now.
Mm-hmm.
So the formal plan hasn't been submitted. As long as I've been president here for 3 years, I've been going and listening in on the town meetings and trying to figure out what to do, because I have no idea how to do any of this.
Mm-hmm.
And the developer always seems to think they're 6 months from groundbreaking, and it's been 3 years now.
What is the time for the agreement? Do you know how long that lasts, the agreement between the landowner and?
I do not know the exact time. I think I was told the next contract's up in April.
Mm-hmm.
But I haven't seen it for myself. That's only kind of been what I've told. So take that for
whatever it's worth.
Right.
I'll tell you what. Let's go to a commercial, and we're going to come back and talk more with Mike Kelly from the Honeybrook Speedway.
Barry Dee is back with All Politics Are Local.
I'm back with Mike and Cooper Kelly from the Honeybrook Speedway Raceway. And Cooper, how long you been racing?
I think like 2 years from now. Three.
So how old were you when you started?
5.
Really? Do you meet any good chicks that way?
No.
That's all right. You'll grow into that. Mm-hmm. Take your time. Yeah, they cost a lot of money. Trust me, I know. Anyway. Thank you, Eric. Back to the racetrack. So, looking for alternate locations is getting very difficult because nobody really wants a racetrack. A lot of noise, things like that. And it may only be for a few hours, and everybody's like, well, you don't want that in our backyard. And every one of these racetracks that goes away is another one gone forever. They're not building new ones. They're not building new airports. And nobody, it's all the NIMBY thing, not in my backyard. So it's like that even for shooting ranges, right? So it's anything like that. Now, and then people that want to do it don't speak up enough. And you need more defense on this type of thing. Because sooner or later it's all going to be gone. It's going to only be a Midwest thing where there's broad open plains where they're like, come on out. Our population in our town is 22. Well, yeah, but there's only 22 people, so I can build a racetrack. People are going to have to drive 200 miles to get to me. So you've got this weird sweet spot, right? Like when they built that, Honeybrook was, what year did you say that was? Like 70s?
70-ish, right?
Yeah. Yeah, I was very familiar with the back. There was nothing out there. Development. You lived in Honeybrook. You know what the joke was in Honeybrook? You know the toothbrush was invented there, Cooper? If it had been any place else, it would have been called a teeth brush. That was one of the jokes. I'm not saying I agree with that. I'm just telling you that was the joke. He just got it. Good for you, Coop. So, I guess you'd have to push out towards Lancaster to do something like that, right? I mean,
yeah, they're. Real quick to touch on the noise. With 10 race cars on the track,
right?
The decimal reading on
readings,
them is the exact same as one Exmark zero-turn commercial lawnmower.
Oh, get out of here! What distance?
So, at 20 feet.
That's a nothing.
So, I mean, that's from the track to the fence line on our track.
That's a nothing. That's a nothing. So, and how you operate weekends?
So
weekdays? What?
Yep. So we race on Sundays. Start at noon.
Mm-hmm. And you go how long?
It's usually till about 4 o'clock.
Okay, 4 hours.
So we have practice is pretty much any time sun up to sundown.
Mm-hmm.
It's usually somebody will go after work one day.
And it's typically a couple out on the track?
Yeah, it's just 1 or 2 people. You have to have 2 adults in case something happens. But it's very minor. There's been a little bit of talk with another bigger micro track that's out towards Lancaster, and if we needed a place to go, they offered us space on their track's property. We'd have to still build and supply everything, and they would want us to kind of run it all on our own. But they did offer the space if something happens, because
you'd be into that for $2 million by the time you did the engineering and got everything approved by the township, and then the asphalt, and then I guess you take down your bleachers, and you have bleachers, right?
Yes.
Yeah, remember you have bleachers up there. You have to take them down and move them up. You'd be into that for $2 million. How do you float that kind of money for a racetrack on an enterprise that makes what? Nothing.
I mean, it's a nonprofit.
It's a nonprofit. It gets turned back in.
Right.
That's how I run my life. I'm a nonprofit.
Same.
Yeah. I do more volunteering and helping than I do making money. If I got paid for everything I did, I wouldn't be sitting in this chair. I'd be off on some beach in Tahiti. You know, that's the way it works. But you know what? It's not how we were raised, Mike, is it?
No,
it's
not.
You're out there. You're trying to help out the future generations, and that's what's going to happen with this, right? D.L. Horton's going to take that out, and it's the damage. They don't see that, right? Because houses are a crop that you plant once, right? You make your money, you plant it once, and then they're gone, and they've moved on to more fertile ground. They're like, I don't know. I don't want to say locusts, but that's what it is. They come in, it's fertile ground, it's gone. And I get it. That means jobs for people, carpenters and electricians and plumbers and all that. I get all that, and I'm with them. I'm not anti-developer.
Right.
What I am is anti-destruction of traditions and values and future generations. And that, my friend, is what's going to happen. That's what's going to happen. And it's a very frustrating thing to me. If you could tell me something right now, what words would you say to save this place? What would you come up with? What is your battle cry? What is it?
So I mean, it's hard to say, but I would say it's a family. I've made some of my best friends at that place. Lifelong family friends.
And new people coming in.
We're always open. It's one of the friendliest competition sports I've ever been involved in. I mean, they welcome people with open arms, try and help. And kids crash their cars, and people will use their own parts to put on them so they can go back out there and race against their kids that are out there.
Right. That's a racing community.
If you've never been out to see a race or even check it out and watch, it's something you got to see.
You know, that's a really good point. What is your schedule?
So schedules.
It's going to start soon. What, April, May? What?
So we have a rookie school starts in March. We have a classroom setting at the Honeybrook in there on Route 10.
Sure.
We do a little classroom thing. Get the kids, the young kids, kind of familiar with people, and then we start the following week. I think it's the second or third week in March. We start rookie school. That goes for about 6 weeks. Or every Sunday, we get the kids out there and we start teaching them how to race. And then I forget the exact date on our opening day, but we'll get going. We'll get racing, and we race on Sundays. Racing starts at noon. It's free. It's always free for anybody
I love
to come.
That word, free.
To come and watch. It's always free. There's a snack shack. We ask if you could support it a little bit. Helps keep the cost down for families there racing, trying to do their thing.
I'm going to come out and visit you this spring. I've driven by it a million times. Love it. I turn my head every time to watch those guys. Never stop in. I'm going to do it. Mike, I hate to tell you this. It's time to wrap up the show. So why don't you just hang out there? I'd like to thank you and Cooper for coming out here from the Honeybrook Speedway and speaking about the potential loss of another Chester County icon. Racetracks, airports, horse show grounds, all taken away from the public because of development. Thank you so much, Eric Clambera, my producer here on All Politics Are Local. He's still getting over his cold of 4 weeks now, but he soldiers on. I think that's a little stretching it, buddy. The Battle Hymn of the Republic. But
you can't handle the truth.
Mondays and Wednesdays, Eric and I are together on the morning show. Be sure to check out this coming week when we talk about something interesting.
I'm so sorry.
Hey, listen, local radio right here, WCHE, we got your back. You think Spotify cares about you? They care about that monthly recurring charge on your credit card bill. That's what they care about. We at Chester County support the local businesses. Go to the Honeybrook Speedway and see what it's all about. I am. Local businesses are your neighbors and your friends, and support those that sponsor WCHE. They are our community. If you don't have a community, well, you are on your own. And hey, if you don't like my show, take the time to send a nice note. Did I say if you don't? If you like my show, take the time to send a nice note to WCHE at WCHE1520.com. If you don't like the show,
you can't handle the truth.
Man, he's back again. Can we shut him up? Anyway, as always, a shout out to the diva of downtown Westchester, Donna Saul, the general manager of WCHE. Without her, you wouldn't have me, and without me, you'd have your sanity. Be sure to like and follow WCHE's Facebook page, where you can keep up on what's happening around the town, around this town, and around the county. And you can see my updates and videos on my Facebook page, which is WCHE All Politics Are Local with Barry Dee, and my YouTube channel, All Politics Are Local with Barry Dee. Today's intro and outro music is from that New Zealand band Dragon with their 1989 song Young Years, which was never released in the United States and was only a hit in Australia and New Zealand. So if it doesn't sound familiar to you, that's why. But our Australian Kiwi friends, they are digging it, I assure you. And the final advice of the day, if you're looking for love in all the wrong places, you might want to stop. Penicillin will only cure so much. I'm Barry Dee for All Politics Are Local. Thanks for listening.